This podcast was brought to you by the good people at Audible. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial right now at audibletrial.com/nothingbutstatic. Hello and welcome to Stephen University. This week we are discussing an episode I've been very excited to show Chris since very early in this podcast's run, called Off Colours. We'll do the recap and then we'll get into it.
Yeah, although I will say, you thought I wanted to watch the next episode last time. If the running theme of the last episode was, let's just get to the next one, then prepare for what should be one of the longest, but will be one of the shortest. Let's use that word. We'll try and keep it around 40 for you peeps. It starts with them. So obviously we're recapping, but one of my immediate emotions is part of the recap because it starts with Stephen and Lars having crashed and among the wreckage, and Lars says, I hope you're safe, and he's like, I would have been if it weren't for your bubble. And I'm like, Jesus, they crashed. And this isn't like a filmed drama where sometimes we don't see shit because it's too expensive. Like, they chose not to animate them crashing through Homeworld and Stephen bubbling Lars and him as the ship crashed. So what that said to me was, this episode had some shit to get through. I was like, oh, if they're not showing that, this episode's got some things to do.
I suppose, to be fair, obviously animation can be expensive, and while an explosion is no more expensive than a character, jumping off something. You do have to put more money into assets and fast-moving stuff. Yeah, that's fair. Two people stood talking is cheaper to animate than an explosion with bits flying everywhere, and so that there may have potentially been a costing factor, but I suspect you're right, and that the episode just knew it needed to focus itself elsewhere. Wouldn't even surprise me if originally they did storyboard at least like a 5 to 10 second sort of shot of it coming down. But they didn't feel the need to actually spend the money on animating.
Yeah, I think it's a neater start where they are, but it would have been cool to see.
Would have been nice to see. I agree with that statement. But yeah, crack on. We'll carry
Stephen and Lars start getting chased by this laser, and then a hand appears and says down here, and they look and conclude that even though they don't know if they're about to walk into a trap, they have little choice but to go down this sort of manhole thing, and join what's ever there. They go down the manhole, and we meet the off colours, which are, so there's the first one we see, which is a gem that's just come out wrong somehow. Well, those are their terms.
They're the Rutile twins, and they are that would usually be one gem, but it's like the Siamese twin of gems.
Then they've got probably my favourite one, this fusion of 6 gems, who has the rather creepy line, "It could be more if we found the right gem," which is a fusion of multiple gems, it would seem.
Yeah, I think that gem, if memory says that gem, I say memory says that, it's fluorite, that gem.
Cool. A sapphire that can't predict the future that well. Can only see what's just happened.
Padparacha, yeah, it's a kind of sapphire, and in the fictional world of Steven Universe, it's where sapphire has future vision, Padparacha has past vision, and quite comically keeps describing things that happened 2 minutes ago, which I'm waiting for that joke to get old. I shouldn't, but I laugh every time.
Yeah, it's done really well. And then a Garnet-esque fusion, who appears to have been, just for being a fusion, appears to have been criticised and kicked out of the gem
Rhodonite. So presumably the same way that the Homeworld gems have looked quite disgustedly at Garnet's existence.
Yeah.
It's really cool because it's nice to know that other gems have become permafusions in the same way and have been they have been shunned by Gem Society, but the minute and this is getting us away from your description, but very quickly I just want to throw out there, the second I met Rhodonite like in the show, all I could think about was I cannot wait for Rhodonite to meet Garnet. They have to do that. It has to happen. Like that's all I was thinking in my head. Also, interesting to note that Rhodonite is not a Sapphire Ruby fusion like Garnet, but is a Ruby and Pearl fusion.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. If you look at the design, it fits.
That's cool
with the eyes and stuff. I think the gem placement and the gem's shapes, I should say, give it away. So it's Rhodonite, awesome, who we just discussed. Fluorite, who's the rather large sort of caterpillar-y one. The Rutile twins. Padparacha, who's just, the worst future vision power of all time.
So Lars and Steven meet these guys who have been sort of rejected from Gem Society, are themselves in hiding, but seemingly no one's particularly looking for them either. So they've been you get the impression they've been allowed to sort of hide and carry on their lives. Then they are interrupted by the lasery things who are back, and Lars has been talking about how he's been a coward and is kicked into gear and decides to step up his game in awesome fashion, where he basically the twins are in. Is it the twins? I think it's the twins are in trouble and about to be kind of caught.
It might be Padparacha. I feel like it's Padparacha.
I think he saves her later when he realizes that he realizes that the gems. The laser things can't see him because he hasn't got a gem.
There's a great moment where there's a moment where he stands in front of like Rhodonite, and
so I think it's the twins because I like the notion of it being the twins because the implication being that they saved him, so he's sort of saving them. That's what spurs him.
Yes, that makes sense. I'd have to go back and look to see what order it happens in. He essentially saves them all, like one by one.
Yeah, he does
a
different points
of sort of events.
Saved them all in a massive sequence of awesomeness. Which sees lasers get destroyed by rebounding off of things, and then one of them he just jumps on it and just starts smashing the shit out of it, and it is a great triumphant moment. And then you have this incredible moment where that gets destroyed and blows up, and Lars hits a rock, and you instantly, as he falls, suddenly go, even though you've just been told, it just hits you in that moment. Oh yeah. He's human. Like, we've seen Steven getting animations like this before. We've seen the other gems have fight like this, and it's just a cool fight. And then he hits that rock, and you're like, he's human. And you think, shit. And he does die. And then Steven cries on him, and he comes back to life with a cool white hair dude and purple skin. Yes, I miss seeing that. And it... Huh? Go on, what?
Pink
skin then, is it? I don't know.
Very specifically pink skin.
Right, okay. Because they're in a dark place, so I didn't know if it was purple.
That is the frustration of this, actually. I think that would have hit home harder had this not been... Because this show's really clever, and if the lighting shifts, the colour palette changes. When you see the gems out in the open, like sunlight, they have their basic colours. But whenever they go into weirdly lit places, their colours sort of shift, which is what happens with human eyes. They just very rarely animate that in TV because it can be confusing and especially in a show where, like, you recognise the gems from their colour sometimes. Certain gems are a very distinct shade. It's interesting that they choose to do that, sometimes just to play with it. Lars very specifically goes pink with a sort of light pink tuft of hair.
Right. So we'll come back to that. But he is alive again. And then you have the Sapphire one say something's going to happen to Lars.
Yeah, something amazing or something incredible will happen to Lars. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, which reminded me of the end of Thor Ragnarok, where you have the as long as the foundations are okay, we will survive. Oh no, foundations are gone. like which some people didn't like. They felt it undermined the drama. But I think because he comes back
so much. I love that character so much.
Funny.
He has one of my favorite lines from any Marvel movie ever, which is "Piss off, Ghost." When Loki fades away, and then he just runs in and kicks the air where Loki was stood, uttering "Piss off, Ghost." That is one of the best lines of dialogue in any Marvel movie. I'll fight you to the end if people disagree with me on that. It's so funny.
Yeah, but people didn't like that scene. They felt it undermined. But I think because he's already come back. So I mean, we're jumping around, but I mean, surely we've got to do Lars's death. We touched upon whether someone would die. I did theorize if they died, Stephen would bring him back to life, which is what happens. So the pink thing then is that I suppose one theory could be it's like pink raw skin. So if Stephen heals him, it go like in the way that if you'd heal. I don't know. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm listening. I'm listening to what you're saying.
Sorry, the noise on the headphones sort of changed. I don't know. Like, you could argue that, like, if you get brand new skin, if the body repairs itself, would it get new skin, and therefore would that be pink, or is it more to do with like the fact that Stephen's gem is pink, and is it connected to that?
Mm-hmm.
Why is it specifically pink, Dan?
Because I think. Specifically pink, there is a secondary reason which will become clearer in the next episode, but the primary one is that obviously that is very much from his power. Lars it's very much connected to the power Stephen has acquired from his mother, and his mother's gem is pink, and without questioning exactly how it works at this stage, that is clearly it's pink rather than purple, very specifically because it's from his gem's powers.
Wow.
But what I also kind of love about it is when you think about it, the episode's called Off Colors.
Oh yeah, so now Lars is off color.
Yeah, there's something so poetic and brilliant about that.
But I hope that, because I love when Lars starts being brave and starts kicking ass, and I really hope that if he's gone pink because of Stephen, he's not suddenly got powers. I don't know, maybe it'd be cool to see him have powers, but I like the idea that
he's still just
his
human.
Bravery, which he's come to himself, is his power now.
Yes, yeah, I'd agree with that statement. It's this has been this. I mean, you talked about Lars. We talked your theory recently about Lars, being the character you think had some sort of change. And that we knew about that ahead of time, the writers knew about that well ahead of time. Absolutely right. There's artwork of this that was put up, dated many years earlier, that Rebecca Sugar sort of had and put up on Instagram following this episode. It's a good one.
This, I will say, it is a shame that another episode immediately followed this, because I imagine fans would have gone nuts in the gap. Like, and I'm sure they probably, based on the next episode, will go nuts as well if this momentum continues. But it's so huge. It's one of the biggest things the show's ever done. They
killed a character. Like, minute he hit that rock, and you know what it was? It wasn't so much the impact with the rock; it was the way his body limply rolled to the floor. Was the moment, because that felt so weirdly graphic. Like, that limpness really, because usually in these shows they animate the person falling, like arms flailing, trying to regain themselves, to sort of very much say, no, this person is still conscious, this person is still alive, this person, you know what I mean? It's how animation communicates to you. No, they didn't die during that, you know what I mean? And you become numb to it because that's how animation works. Like, they're usually aimed at kids, most of these animated shows, these sort of like actiony based animations, and like you want to make sure that you're constantly recommunicating that even though these things would kill a normal person, these are your superheroes from whatever show you're watching. These are the fighters of Dragon Ball Z or whatever. And yes, they can get knocked through a mountain or whatever, but they'll stand straight back up. The minute he hits that rock and his body lifelessly rolls to the ground, I was like, shit, he's dead instantly. And what's amazing is, like you said recently, which is like, you didn't ever really think they'd do that because it's a kid's show, but then. No. What's so great about this show is, like, it's gotten to the point now where you just go, yeah, maybe they would. I didn't think they'd tackle X, Y, and Z. Maybe they're going to deal with death here. And regardless,
do you think they undermined that then by immediately bringing him back to life? I don't think they do. But
no, I don't think they do either, because there's clearly more to that. Because of if he'd just come back to life, I'd be like, come on. But because he came back to life, and now we know something is different, like his skin color has changed. That's not nothing. Do you know what I mean? That's something. Yeah. Like where they go with it, absolutely a different story.
Plus, they didn't do. No, Lars, no, live again. Here's my tears. Here's my saliva. Live again. Yeah, they did Stephen mourning, and the off colors realizing something was wrong, and Stephen mourning his friend, and he brings him back to life accidentally, essentially.
which has been done before. In fact, one of the trivia is actually about how many times this has been done. It's very common. I didn't realize. Yeah, Belle revives the Beast with her love and tears in Beauty and the Beast. Entangled, Rapunzel revives Flynn Rider with tears. And in Pokemon, the first movie, the various Pokemon revive Ash Ketchum with their tears.
Spoilers for the first Pokemon movie.
I know, gutted, right? It's only 20 years old.
I forgot they did a movie.
How old is that movie? I saw that movie in the cinema.
I forgot they released a movie.
They've released 20 movies.
Was it? Yeah, but that first one was like they didn't all get cinema releases, did they?
In Japan, the movies are still getting cinema releases, and occasionally over here they still do. Not wide, but they still hit.
Did
cinemas.
they?
1998, dude. I swear to God, it is 20 years old to the month June 2008.
Wow.
1998. Wow, I didn't realize how accurate that guess was. The dubbed version didn't reach UK though, or America till 99. But anyway, different story. Carry on.
Was it set like at the same, like within the continuity of the show?
The movie, yeah.
Okay, cool.
And it introduced a few of because it was basically sort of between the first season of the first arc, I should say, not season, because the first arc went over multiple seasons, and the second. So basically, in Pokemon, they've got generations, because each game has there'll be a few games that come out in our generation of Pokemon that use the same 150 Pokemon or whatever the number is for that generation. The next one will start and they'll introduce a new number of Pokemon, 100, 150. Sometimes it's as low as like 70, 80, but they'll have a whole new batch of Pokemon, and then there'll be a new generation of games where they've updated them or whatever. So the first Pokemon movie was sort of like one of the final things that happened as part of Gen 1, and introduced a couple of the Pokemon, one or two, that were from Gen 2.
Okay.
Because the games already existed, so they were able to just nick, and it was the first time I think we saw like Dofan, which is a Pokemon, and so they used it to sort of like tease a little bit Pokemon from Gen 2, because the series was about to move into the sort of Johto era, which is the other name for Gen 2. I'm going onto a big Pokemon rant, aren't I? But yeah, it was set within the context of the show. And the movies since then have all pretty much done similar things, to different degrees. But yeah,
okay. Cool, good Pokemon time. So
you want to get back to the next one? I'm thinking about stretching this one out as long as possible now.
Yeah, you're like, well, hold on, Chris. We gotta briefly detour into Pokemon.
Why not?
I do have another question, but I don't want to leave off of Lars yet. How awesome was it when he started kicking ass? I mean, incredible.
It's you know what? I think it's really, really good. On its own, you'd be like, okay, well, he's fighting back, fine. But because of the way this show is built,
they earned it.
Yeah. Did they earn it? Jesus. Especially over the last 4 or 5 episodes since I Am My Mom and Are You My Dad? Since no, it was the episode just before that, wasn't it? The one with the potluck. What was that called? The Good Lars. Was it called The Good Lars?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Since that episode, they've been very, very heavily building a Lars is afraid arc, afraid of. And even in this episode, I think he says, I'm afraid, or maybe in the last one, I'm afraid of everything. I'm even afraid of the thing I'm supposed to love, baking. Do you know what I mean? And like him saying all that and then really driving that home in the 4 or 5 episodes building up to this means that this payoff is so fantastic. again, on its own, out of context, you'd be like, yeah, it's some cartoon characters, the bad guys have come and they're having a bit of a fight or whatever. Like, you wouldn't think twice about it. But they've built so much character stuff around it that the moment he starts fighting back is so powerful. It's incredible. It's like, it's just so well earned. I'm sad sometimes that we don't, like, these days, like, we're in such a good era of the show. We're finding a lot less to criticize. And it does feel like we're just basically spending 40, 50 minutes a week sucking the show's dick. I don't
think you need to phrase it quite so graphically, but yeah.
Well, I mean, I think I used the same phrasing 2 episodes ago, so I was echoing myself.
But
no
excuse to be vulgar, Dan.
No excuse to be vulgar. You're right, Chris. I'll stop. We got to earn that explicit tag on iTunes. That's all I'm saying.
Even though I compared you to a 12-year-old that had been caught masturbating, which is, when I say it out of context of the point I was making, a horrific sentence to say.
Actually, yeah, that's really true. I didn't even. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Appalling.
So who's worse here, Chris? Really?
Yeah, me. That's yeah.
Because not only did you say arguably the worst thing, but it makes you a hypocrite.
Yeah, like, but I was meaning, like, you know, when you're young and you get caught doing something naughty is what I meant.
I know. I'm kidding. But it is brilliant. It's a really powerful moment, and it's earned, and it takes up a good chunk of the episode. But every single swing and every single because you're constantly waiting for Lars to give in and hide behind something because there's a handful of these. What do they call them? Like Rovenites or something like that. I didn't take note of what they called them, but the off colors had like a name for them. But basically, you've got these floating, objects that he's fighting, and every time he takes one down and the next one comes and it looks like it's about to get even worse for him, you're waiting. Going up, is he going to bottle it again? Is he going to have a moment of bravery and then back out? So it's also there's 2 levels of tension to it because you're waiting to see if he's going to finally bottle it again, but you're also like, you want the off colors to sort of make it out safely because you become quite attached to them quite quickly. I find we'll talk about them in more detail in a minute, but I think that whole sequence that ends this episode where Lars, where it's multiple moments of action strung together. And it's tense and exciting, and it's everything you want from action. It's really well animated, but like, again, there's this underlying: will he give in again? Are we just going to continue the arc, or is this the moment where he's made the decision that he's going to be braver? Full stop. And it is that one, and again,
which it certainly seems to be.
What's that, sorry?
It certainly seems to be that moment that he's made that decision. It's
awesome. Yeah, 100%. Because he doesn't bottle it at all. There's no bottling it at all. He fights till to the death. Jumping, that final moment where he jumps on the one and makes it explode with him on it, like, it's so badass. The whole thing. Yeah, because
it's all about him doing the right thing. He is clearly not thinking it through because he's literally on it. Like, if he was thinking it through, there's a question of, well, it's going to blow up. That's going to be bad for me. But it's not that. It doesn't feel like he's being stupid. It doesn't feel like he doesn't care. He's just so consumed with, I have to stop this thing from hurting these people. And what's incredible about that is it's not stop it from hurting himself. It has been established that this thing is not after him. And that if he did nothing... Actually, in this scenario, if he did nothing at all, he would be fine. And every other choice in the show has been about him. And this choice, the choice to do something which then ultimately kills him, is about other people.
And some people have said, "Oh, wouldn't it have been better if he'd finally shown bravery in the situation where maybe Sadie was in peril?" And I actually dispute that because I actually think it's more powerful a statement that he finally chooses to do it when
I agree.
It's someone that's not related or connected to him, because that's
somebody doesn't even know.
That's an easy baby step to go, okay, now he's being brave for somebody he cares about, then he'll maybe move on to being brave for just anyone, because that's, sometimes it's important to be brave in life. That's fine, but it's more powerful a statement here that he doesn't even know these guys. He meets them for as long as we do. It's a few minutes of conversation, and then there he is risking his life for them. And it is, again, it's just beautifully satisfying.
Yeah, it's amazing. So before we talk about the off-colors, my question for you.
Oh, yeah, you had a question. Yeah, you go.
The decision, and I need to think about it more to know where I stand. So I'm not putting a hat on either horse here. The decision to do Homeworld, but not necessarily so far do Homeworld.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, we've gone to Homeworld for 2 episodes now, and we've had a courtroom, and we've now got an underground kindergarten.
Yeah, we got a glimpse of what looked like a big sprawling city, and then we immediately found ourselves in a sort of seedy underworld. Yeah.
Yeah, in a kindergarten, and we've seen kindergartens before. So, what do you think of that? Do you think did you want more Homeworld? Do you think it's fine? I think it's fine, to be honest, because I think it's partly one of those things where, are you ever going to do Homeworld to satisfy everyone? Did Doctor Who take a bit of the myth out of it when they did Gallifrey? Can you ever really do it right, or is it best that it is just a myth and we just get glimpses?
I would eventually like to see it in a bit more detail, but I think that it's fine here because the focus is so heavily on character and story and progression there. I think that in a weird way, if we did this same story but on the surface where we were also exploring Homeworld, the same way that last week I felt like maybe it would have been a bit distracting to do some sort of weird gem version of a trial. And it would have taken time out of what was more interesting about that episode, which is all these doubts we're now raising into the history we've sort of accepted in the last sort of, 10, 20 episodes, however long. I think that the same thing is true here when you've got this big swing for Lars's character and all this great stuff we just spent, 20, 30 minutes talking about, whatever. I think you could have potentially, if not balanced well enough, really distracted from that with Homeworld. And I'll be honest with you, the way this show has always gone has always been dribs and drabs, just little glimpses here and there, and eventually you put it together. So I was never expecting a big exploration of Homeworld episode, because 2 things about that. From a nerdy perspective, that would be very exciting, because I'd be like, look, this is how they do this on Homeworld, and this is what this society is like, and here's the glimpse of that, all that stuff, right? But 2, you're never going to be able to tell an interesting story on Homeworld while Stephen is Rose Quartz, leader of the dreaded crystal gems that destroyed the beloved Pink Diamond. If he was running around on surface, we wouldn't have gotten to really glimpse any of it anyway, because he'd have been running around avoiding. Do you know what I mean? Like, unless there's a way for him to come to Homeworld incognito, we're never going to get a good look at it anyway. So I would much rather them just go, okay, we're going to focus on story. What's the more interesting story here? And they come up with this concept of the off-colors, which is just brilliant and tells us more about Homeworld, really, and Gem Society than seeing what a restaurant on Homeworld looks like. Do you know what I mean?
So, so let's talk about that. I mean, pretty clear connotations, isn't it, for children? It's pretty clear, everyone should be equal in society. We shouldn't, push people away because they are different or look different. Like, you said it earlier, we've got what feels like a parallel to a Siamese twin. We've got someone essentially with potentially you could argue learning difficulties because of she's got this power, but it's not quite the same as everyone else.
It's not working. It's not working the way that a sapphire normally would. Yeah, it's a really good point. I didn't even put that one together like that, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah, we've got the garnet, so that's the kind of different
a relationship that is not accepted.
Relationships,
yeah.
So it's pretty clear lines, and I don't think in the way that it's exactly how they addressed the mindfulness. It's exactly how they've addressed abuse before. It's done in a really subtle. Really, hopefully kids will be thinking, oh no, if I do that, they can apply this story to their own world, hopefully.
It's not that subtle.
Well, yeah, okay.
It is relatively subtle in that it's not like overtly said, but I mean, it's certainly not as subtle as some of the other stuff they've done, but that's not to say it's not subtle altogether, obviously. It's just not, it's toting a line, but it's, Yeah, it's fantastic. I 100% agree, and it's a really good message to send to kids as well, which is.
And they've created a gang, and they've gone to a lot of trouble to create a gang, which makes me think. I think these characters are either sticking around or they're gonna. Well, it feels like they're building up to be Lars's gang. If I was predicting, he has saved all of their lives. He is in a way put himself forward as their leader. And clearly something's, stuff going on with Lars. So
and that other thing I mentioned about him now, him now literally being an off-color.
He's also now literally an off-color. Yeah. So I love that notion. I can't wait to see where it goes.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of like their use going forward, I was a little unsure how they were going to use them. I was like you, hoping that they wouldn't be forgotten and that they would become something for sure. Because I think
that would be a waste. But then, like, how does this last episode now wrap up or address, or like I just can't see a world where this in the next 10 minutes, next time we watch that's going to wrap up the stuff about Rose and whether she did or didn't shatter Pink Diamond, and the fact that they're on the run, the fact that we've got the off-colors, that Lars is now reborn. Like, they've got to leave some stuff hanging, haven't they?
Well, they're going to have to, because there's no way you settle all that in 10 minutes. You're absolutely right. But this show has never made any bones about the fact that it's slow burny in terms of how it deals with this stuff. So I think that's why I'm so excited to watch the next one, because I don't know where. You don't know what they're going to choose to focus on.
I don't know what they're going to focus on. I don't know whether they're just going to open up a new thread and just be like, we're going to leave this one hanging as well. Or whether they're going to try and close a thread or what. I don't know.
Yeah, 100%.
Because like you, I was like, well, by the end of the Wanted event, he's back on Earth. Like, or he's on his way home, or they're on their way home, sorry. But now I'm like, I don't know, I can't see a scenario where we see the others, where this next episode ends with Steven and Lars going back to Earth. I can't see that, but
no, because how do you get to that in 11 minutes?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But if any show could do it, it's this.
Yeah, 100%. It's. Because you're right, because there's too many things and it's not that they can't do them, it's that they can't do all of them. So you've got all these lingering questions about Rose Quartz, you've got all these lingering questions now about what the fuck's going on with Lars, that you would hope they would explore immediately in the next episode, and then you've got this whole situation of you are trapped on Homeworld, how are you getting home, and then you've got the question of like what goes on with the off colors, can they rescue them too? They don't seem to be having a great time on Homeworld, and it's like you wouldn't have the time to deal with all of those, so what do you not do and what do you do?
Well, so I'll make a prediction, because while you were talking then I'm like, okay, well how do you do it? And I'm thinking, well, you need some form of Deus Ex Machina. You need, like, if they escape, you need a ship, or you need someone to help them.
Uh-huh.
And the only character that they have put a slight hint of, like, Blue Diamond's not going to suddenly turn up and help them. The lawyers are shattered, so the only to bring us full circle. Topaz is the only way I can think her turning up with a ship or something. Do you see what I mean? Like, if they are going to conclude it in 11 minutes, the only way I can think to do that would be with that character.
Yeah.
Because that's the only one that has any hint of being on their side. So working on the assumption that they're going to need to get help from somewhere, that's the only place I can see it coming from.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that would be my prediction.
And do you think if that was correct? So the next statement I'm going to make is in a world where that's exactly what happens.
Right.
Barn's going to get pretty crowded, isn't it?
Yeah.
Imagine that, the off colours plus Topaz plus Lapis plus Peridot crammed into that barn watching fucking Camp Pining Hearts.
And then we don't, like, they only just get away with sometimes involving Peridot and Lapis and sometimes not. So I don't think you could do a barn full of people. So yeah, I don't know what you do in that sense. Jesus.
Yeah, so yeah, you're feeling the excitement, but it's earned,
so what? So talk me through your emotions at this stage in this advert break then, and what is you referenced the fact that the guy who was streaming it was making commentary. What's he doing at this point?
Oh, he's losing his fucking mind. I mean, what's amazing is he tried to keep it cool initially. So so Lars essentially dies and then goes, gets the tears on him, goes pink. And the guy just goes, well. That's interesting. And he's trying to keep it low key, that could mean many things. And then within a minute or two, he's like, I mean, what about this? And what about that? within the minute or two that it took to get from A to B, he went from forcing himself to be, I'm reserved and I'm giving my feedback to what's happening?
And at this point, surely, all joking aside, you want to wake Nadia up.
No, I was like, definitely don't now, because the thing is, I knew it was going to be big. I didn't realize quite. I think if I'd known it was going to be this big, I wouldn't have done it, just on the basis of how do I pretend to be surprised by this?
Yeah, how did you pretend to be surprised by Lars dying?
I just pretended to be really focused and drawn into the episode, because again, if I said anything, I'd have given myself away because because I am not a very good liar by any stretch of imagination. I'd have given it away instantly. So she was like, "Oh my god!" I'm like, "Yeah, we've got to watch the next one." Just that's straight into it. I'm not. Do you know what I mean? I'm not engaging in discussion about it at this stage.
Because, there was any doubt you were watching the next episode. Surely you didn't start this arc at midnight. We'll watch one.
No, 100%. But I was instead of us sitting and talking about it and then watching this one, I was like, we're going, and that, to avoid myself, because we're not really talking during the episode.
How painful would it be to see that and then have to chat for 40 minutes? That would be,
that'd be horrendous. Well, who would do that to you, Chris?
Yeah, exactly. You got any triv?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, Lars makes a really, really funny reference to Jurassic Park.
Yes, I picked that up.
The scanners won't detect them if they don't move. His reasoning is he saw it in a movie once, and after it's unsuccessful, he admits that he's pretty sure that movie was about dinosaurs.
Yeah, I thought that was very good.
It's a great joke. I also love that this isn't in the trivia, but I just wanted to make it. I've just been reminded of it. I love that the very first thing that Lars thinks about when they are when he finds out Steven doesn't know where they are either, that they're both in the same boat. Because at first, I think he thinks Steven maybe has been to Gem Homeworld before and knows where he's going or knows how to get off. When Steven admits it's his first time here, the next sentence that comes out of Lars's mouth is, "What are we going to eat?" And I think that is...
Yeah, I quite like that thread that he was just
first thing he thought about was food. And that's weird as well, because obviously, theoretically, gems don't eat, so... No wonder he's thinking about food. I bet he's fucking hungry. Yeah. How long ago did he leave Earth?
Yeah, how long ago was he kidnapped? Yeah.
Maybe days? How long were they traveling for? How long were they held before they were put into the trial? How long did the trial go on for? Do you know what I mean? It's been a while. He's certainly not eaten in a chunk of time. So I think it's really neat that they thought of that. But also I think specifically Lars is the character that would do that, because obviously cooking is a thing for him. So yeah, I thought that was really cool. Let's have a look. Oh yeah, can we talk about the title cards for these episodes? They've all been a bit unusual, haven't they?
Yeah, they've been a bit cool. They've been a bit funky.
When they do that, it always makes you feel like you're in for a special episode. Remember the Bismuth one?
Yeah,
where it was him and Bismuth staring at each other, and the title just appeared between them. I thought that was really cool.
That was really cool.
And I like this one because it's that shot we got from last week of Homeworld, with the title imposed over it, and then it sort of pans down to the ship, which I think is really cool. And I think the previous episode it looked like a generic pink background, but then you realised it was the holding cell that they were keeping Steven in. So they've done something interesting with all of the title cards, and I think whenever they do episodes like this, that sort of thing is really cool, because it's makes them feel special. Yeah,
definitely. And makes you think that they did know it was going out like this, or knew that they'd do something special with it at the very least.
Yeah, 100%. Interesting bit of trivia. In many countries, or several at least, Lars's death is heavily edited.
Really?
Yeah, the shot of him hitting his head on the wall and rolling to the ground is kind of sort of trimmed around. I did describe it as being fairly graphic. It is surprisingly, like, for a kids show, it is surprisingly graphic, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But so what? So they just, you don't see him hit his head then? You just see
him on the floor, which I guess you could just go, yeah, he fell after the explosion, right? Like,
oh right, okay, yeah, I suppose it's so much more effective.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't have it any other way. But I mean, it's not. It doesn't destroy the episode to do that. It does take the impact out of it, and it's a moment that I think should absolutely be in the episode. But from a continuity perspective, no one would feel watching it that way confused by the sequence of events.
No,
that thing explodes.
Yeah, that's fair.
Stephen goes to his body. It's on the ground. It's like, yeah, of course, like.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. I wanted to say that what I love about that is, and it's subtle and it's in the animation because he's not verbalizing this. It's just in the animation, but it's beautifully done. Stephen goes over, Lars, are you okay? Lars, are you okay? Or something in that region. Puts his head to his chest. Obviously notices there's no heartbeat, and that's when he starts mourning. And it's that switch between panicked Lars, are you okay? To tears. That's the final sort of pun, not pun, but the sort of connection not intended here. It's the final nail in the coffin. If you're going, no, surely not. You see Stephen check his heartbeat essentially, and that's so subtle and brilliantly done because two things about that. First of all, it's very powerful as a visual, just full stop. I think it just works really well because it's less subtle to have Stephen be like, he doesn't have a heartbeat. You know what I mean? Like, instead, just show it and we'll get context. You know, from watching Stephen turn from panicked and trying to save him to giving up and just mourning. Like, that moment is the moment. Yeah, because
the lack of dialogue in it makes it so beautiful.
100%. Number two, though, that's probably going to help with this whole, let's not upset the kids too much thing, because they can still think Stephen is there. Like, they might not see what Stephen is doing for what it is when he's checking the heart, because it's not drawn attention to. They don't hang a hat on it, as it were. Stephen literally puts his head to his chest and then he's crying, and it's like, you're not really sure. Like, you could forgive a child for just thinking he's hurt and Stephen heals him. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and then the timing of the amount of time that he's dead before he then,
very
regenerates or whatever is very clever, because it makes you feel the impact of the death, absolutely. Yes. But if you were a child watching it gets to him still being alive quick enough as well.
Yeah, I've thought about this in two ways. This episode, there's two ways it could have ended. One is with the death, and the other is with the... How would you felt about them doing it the other way?
This podcast would be over, because I'd be like, I don't give a shit. We need to watch what happens next. For one.
So if it had ended with Stephen holding his hand, having just checked his heartbeat, and starting to tear up, and it had cut to silent credits. Oh, I love silent credits when someone's just died. That's one of my favourite tricks. 24 did it beautifully once. And it had just been the credits, silent.
Then this episode would have been literally shorter, because I'd have been like, I need to see what happens next, because I think he's going to bring him back to life, but I can't be sure, etc., etc. I would have praised the bravery, but you know what? Not much more than we've praised the bravery anyway. So I think this was absolutely the way to do it, and I think this was in a post recent Marvel movies world. This was in a recent Marvel's movie world. This was absolutely the way to do it, because I'd be like, it's too far for kids. You need to, in a recent Marvel movies world, I'm kind of like, well, clearly we're not worried about upsetting kids anymore. Like, you look at what Marvel movies did recently. You look you look at the fact that Doctor Who did a storyline about what happens after people dying, and the dead can still feel, and they all say one phrase, "Don't cremate me." Like, Jesus, that was in Doctor Who. Like, I still occasionally think of that, and I'm just like, just nuts that happened in a kid's
even though the Doctor then sort of disproves what's going on in the next episode. Doesn't matter for a minute. That was reality.
Yeah, I'd still debate whether that was too far. I know you're a big fan of that episode, and I'm a big fan of those episodes as a whole, but that particular element, I don't think I'll ever make up my mind on whether that's too far or not.
Yeah.
But yes,
from a story structure perspective as well, I think there's no point because we know what.
Yes,
there's no way he's going away. The characters,
and
like it would be
and also,
so brave and powerful, and it'd lead to some of the best TV potentially ever. But you just can't do it. You
no, because also then what do? Do you start with it? When do you then transform him at the beginning, and you immediately get the answer?
Exactly. So that's exactly what I was about to say. So like storyline wise, or from like a structural narrative wise, we know he's coming back. So why make us wait the ad break to see that? Like, or a day if it had been a bomb or whatever. You just wouldn't. There's no point. We all know what's going to happen.
No.
Do it there and then, and let the cliffhanger not be, oh, is he dead? To which the answer will be, of course he isn't. And instead make the cliffhanger, what the fuck's happened to Lars?
Yeah. What happens now? Yeah, definitely.
So, I'm very excited to show you the next episode, Chris. Last little tiny bit of trivia, actually. Sorry, there was one other bit that I missed. When they were wandering around the gem homeworld, Stephen and Lars stop under a giant sword that is similar to the... I've never seen Sword Art Online, but it's a sword from Sword Art Online called the Elucidator.
Okay, cool.
And one other tiny bit of trivia as well, actually, I've just noticed here. That two, actually. So, oh, wow. This one I really like. The term off-colours was used in the episode That Will Be All by Holly Blue Agate. She used that when addressing the defective Jasper and the Carnelian, and hinted then that there was such a thing. As an off-colour. She called them off-colours. So that's like a known sort of concept. Yeah, it's pretty cool, right? Also, apparently, when Stephen comforts Lars, here he does it with the same high five they did in Lars and the Ghoul Kids.
Yeah, that's a nice touch.
Which is a very nice touch. Goes right back to like what, 14th episode, 13th episode. Yeah. So that's another cool one.
Cool. There we go. Cracking.
You're just so eager. I love it. Yeah, I think... Oh, by the way, one last little note, actually. Sorry. And this isn't me just being a dick, because I know you want to get on. But I do just want to say 10 points to the animators for making that... For giving us the scale of that kindergarten. Holy shit. When they're walking around it... When they first get to it, and you see how far down it goes, and how far up it goes, and the hundreds and thousands of holes that gems have clearly climbed out of, you're just like... Fuck, this isn't even an army. This is millions, billions. This is you can't comprehend the numbers, and that's one planet, awesome. And you know they have colonies all over the place, and you just think, Jesus, how many gems are there? And it's the way they give it scale. Stephen doesn't even need to go, wow, it's so big. Like they animate it so you see it, and I just wanted to give the artists, particularly the guys who do the backgrounds in this episode, credit for making it just feel endless when you're looking at it visually. Wow, just really cool.
Yeah, definitely. It's awesome.
Yeah,
like it's just like you say, it just feels so endless.
Yeah, it does. It's like when you just look down and it just seems to just go on and on. You just see hundreds and thousands of dots. And I swear, if you look at it, I bet if you looked at it at HD and like got a closer look, I bet it just goes on and on. Like I bet there's just dots forever you could count. To sort of symbolize the holes and stuff. So shall we watch the next one then?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so that has been everything for this one. We'll see you on the next one. I've been Dan Doolan.
I've been Chris Billingham.
I'll speak to you next time when we discuss Mars's Head.